The shook hard as it entered the atmosphere of the dead moon. Inside, 22 soldiers sat in silence. They came from 3 different species, 3 different worlds, but today they shared one mission: kill the Queen. They were the tallest ones in the ship. They had thin bodies and blue skin that you could almost see through. Their eyes were large and black like deep pools of water. There were 12 of them sitting perfectly still, their long fingers wrapped around their rifles. They were known across the galaxy for their discipline. They never broke formation. They never panicked. They followed orders without question. Next to them sat These were massive creatures with 4 arms and bodies covered in hard plates like armor. They were born for war. Each carried enough weapons for 3 soldiers. They growled and clicked their jaws as the ship descended, eager for the fight ahead. 8 of them filled the back of their weight making the floor creak. And then there were the humans. Only 2 of them. They sat apart from the others, checking their gear with practiced hands. The first was Sergeant Park. He was not tall, not by standards, and not wide, not by standards. He looked ordinary. His face was calm, his eyes steady. He had seen combat on 6 different worlds, and he had survived things that should have killed him twice over. The second human was Corporal. She was younger, with sharp eyes and quick movements. She did not talk much, but when she did, people listened. Commander of the stood at the front of the ship. He was the leader of this mission, chosen by the Galactic Coalition for his experience and intelligence. He looked at his soldiers one by one, counting them, measuring them. When his eyes reached the humans, he paused. He had read the files. He knew what humans were. That was what the Coalition called species from Class 12 planets. Worlds where gravity was too strong, where the air carried poison, where predators hunted everything that moved. Earth was such a world. The humans had evolved there, fighting for survival every single day of their existence. They were small compared to. They were fragile compared to. But there was something about them that made uncomfortable. He walked over to. The human looked up at him without expression. "Sergeant," said, his voice smooth and cold, "I want your team to stay behind the line. You will provide support fire only. Do not engage directly." Nodded slowly. "Understood, Commander." "Good." Paused. "Humans are valuable assets. The Coalition does not want to lose you unnecessarily." Made a small sound. It might have been a laugh. Glanced at her and she went quiet. "We will follow your orders," said. Returned to his position. He did not see the look that passed between the 2 humans. He did not understand what it meant. The ship broke through the clouds, and the hive came into view. It was enormous, a mountain of flesh and bone rising from the surface of the moon. There were parasites, creatures that consumed everything they touched. They had already destroyed 3 colonies in this sector. If the Queen was not killed today, they would spread to a dozen more worlds within the year. They landed hard at the base of the hive. The doors opened and the soldiers poured out into the darkness. The air was thick and smelled like rotting meat. Strange lights pulsed along the walls of the hive, green and sickly, making everything look like a nightmare. Raised his hand and gave the signal. They moved forward first, their heavy feet shaking the ground. They followed in perfect lines, their rifles ready. The humans came last. Looked at the hive entrance. It was a hole in the flesh, big enough for 10 soldiers to walk through side by side. Liquid dripped from the edges. Something moved in the darkness beyond. "Stay close," he said too. She checked her rifle one more time. "Always do." They entered the hive. The tunnels twisted and turned like the insides of some great beast. The walls were warm to the touch. The floor was soft and uneven. Every few meters, they passed openings that led deeper into the structure but kept them on the main path. The Queen was at the center. That was where they needed to go. They were getting restless. They wanted to fight, to tear something apart with their 4 hands, but the tunnels were empty, too empty. "I do not like this," one of them whispered. Raised his hand for silence. They walked for another 100 meters. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, the ceiling high above them, lost in shadow. The green light was brighter here, pulsing like a heartbeat. Stopped walking. Noticed immediately, Sergeant. He was looking at the walls, at the shadows between the lights. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones, that old instinct that had kept him alive through 6 campaigns. "Commander," he called out, "we need to stop." Turned irritation on his face. "We do not have time for." The walls exploded. They came from everywhere at once. Drones, hundreds of them, pouring out of hidden holes like water from a broken dam. They were eyeless and screaming, their limbs sharp as blades, their mouths full of teeth. 3 died before anyone could fire a shot. They roared and opened fire, but the drones were too fast, too many. They swarmed over the big warriors, looking for gaps in their armor. The formation broke as soldiers fell. In the chaos, saw something he would never forget. The human sergeant was running, not backward, not toward cover. Forward into the swarm. And he was smiling. Hit the swarm like a hammer hitting glass. His knife was in his left hand, his pistol in his right. He did not stop moving. He could not stop moving. The moment he stood still, he would die. So he kept going forward, cutting and shooting, spinning and ducking. A drone leaped at his face. He put a bullet through its head and stepped over its falling body. Another one came from his left. He drove his knife into its throat and ripped sideways. Hot blood sprayed across his armor. He did not slow down. The aliens watched in shock. Had ordered the humans to stay back. He had called them fragile. He had said they were valuable assets that needed protection. But now one of those fragile humans was deep inside a swarm of drones, killing everything that came near him. And he was not dying. Did not run into the swarm like her sergeant. She was different. She found a position near a rock formation and dropped to one knee. Her rifle came up smooth and steady. She looked through her scope and started shooting. Every shot killed a drone. She did not miss. She could not afford to miss. Was in there surrounded by enemies, and every drone she killed was one less that could hurt him. Her finger pressed the trigger again and again. Drones fell, kept moving. They finally recovered from their surprise. They were warriors, born and bred for battle, and their shame at being caught off guard burned hot in their blood. They pushed forward with terrible roars, their 4 arms swinging weapons and claws. Drones died by the dozens as the big aliens carved through them. They regrouped. They formed new lines, their discipline returning despite the dead lying at their feet. Their rifles spoke in perfect rhythm, each shot placed with mathematical precision. But everyone kept looking at the human. Was covered in blood now. Most of it was not his. He moved through the drones like water through stones, always finding the gaps, always striking first. When his pistol ran empty, he grabbed a drone by its throat and used its body as a shield while he reloaded. When his knife got stuck in a creature's skull, he punched another drone so hard its head snapped backward. He was not faster than he was not more accurate than but there was something else in the way he fought, something the aliens could not understand. He was not afraid. The feared death, the feared failure. Every species in the galaxy feared something, but this human moved like fear did not exist for him, like pain was just information, like the screaming monsters around him were nothing more than obstacles. The medic felt something strange. Her species could sense the emotions of others. It was both a gift and a curse. In battle, she felt the fear and pain of the dying all around her. It was almost too much to bear. But when she focused on the human sergeant, she felt something different. Joy. Not happiness, not pleasure, something darker and older. The joy of a predator in the hunt. The joy of something that was made for exactly this kind of violence. Shivered and looked away. The battle turned. The drones were dying faster than they could attack. They pushed forward. They held their lines, and at the center of it all finally stopped moving. The last drone in his area fell at his feet, its body cut nearly in half. Silence followed, the kind of silence that comes after thunder. Stood alone in a circle of dead enemies. He was breathing hard, his chest rising and falling. Blood dripped from his knife. His armor was torn in 3 places and could see wounds beneath the tears, but he was still standing. He turned and walked back toward the group. They moved aside to let him pass. These were warriors who respected nothing except strength. They had seen many fights. They had never seen anything like this. Lowered her rifle and met her sergeant halfway. She looked at his wounds without expression. "You went too deep," she said. They were not expecting it. "You almost got surrounded." Shrugged almost does not count. Approached them. The commander's face was unreadable, but his eyes kept moving to the field of dead drones behind the human. "Sergeant Park," he said slowly, "I ordered you to stay behind the line." "I know, Commander." "You disobeyed a direct order." Wiped his knife clean on a dead drone. The line was about to break. If those drones had gotten through, you would have been slaughtered. I saw an opportunity and I took it. Was silent for a long moment. He wanted to be angry. He should be angry. Discipline was everything in the coalition military, but he could not deny what he had just witnessed. "How many did you kill?" he asked finally. Looked back at the bodies. He counted quickly in his head. 42, maybe 43. One of them might have been already dead when I hit it. 43. One human with a knife and a pistol had killed 43 drones in close combat. The warriors exchanged looks. In their culture, such a feat would make someone a legend. Songs would be sung about them. Children would be named after them. "We should keep moving," said. "The Queen knows we are here now. More drones will come." Nodded slowly. He gave the order and the squad moved deeper into the hive. But something had changed. They no longer looked at the humans with doubt. They no longer stood in front of them protectively. They walked beside them now. As equals. Fell into step near. The young human woman glanced at her but said nothing. "Your sergeant," said quietly. "I felt what he felt during the fight." His expression did not change, and how does he live with that inside him? How do any of you live with it? Was quiet for a moment, then she smiled just a little. "We do not live with it," she said. "We let it out. Sometimes in places like this that is a good thing." Did not ask any more questions. The tunnel grew darker ahead. The Queen was waiting. They walked for what felt like hours. The tunnels changed as they went deeper. The walls became thicker, harder, covered in strange patterns that pulsed with dim light. The air grew hotter. The smell grew worse. Everyone knew they were getting close to the Queen. Checked his scanner again. The signal was weak this deep in the hive, but he could still see the shape of the Queen's chamber ahead. Maybe 500 meters, maybe less. "We are close," he announced. "Stay alert. The Queen will have her best warriors guarding her." They growled with anticipation. They had been waiting for a real fight. The drones were nothing to them. They wanted something bigger, something stronger. Said nothing. He was watching the walls again, that same feeling from before crawling up his spine. Something was wrong. The hive was too quiet. After the ambush, there should have been more drones. There should have been resistance, but the tunnels were empty. Sergeant had noticed his expression. "Stay ready," he said softly. "I do not like this." The tunnel opened into a large junction where 4 paths met. The ceiling was high here, supported by columns of hardened flesh. The squad stopped to check their position. That was when the ground started shaking. At first it was small, a vibration in the floor. They looked at each other with confusion. They steadied themselves on their 4 legs. Then the shaking became stronger. Cracks appeared in the ceiling. Dust and pieces of the hive rained down. Shouted an order, but his voice was lost in the growing roar of collapsing stone. "It is a trap," someone screamed. The ceiling fell. Not all of it, not everywhere, but enough. Huge chunks of calcified bone and compressed flesh came crashing down. Soldiers scattered in every direction trying to find safety. The junction turned into chaos. When the dust settled, the squad was split in two. Half of them were on one side of the collapse, including most of the N5. The other half, including N3, were trapped on the opposite side, and was somewhere in the middle. Sergeant's voice cut through the dust. She was coughing, her eyes burning. "Sergeant, where are you?" She heard him before she saw him. A groan, low and full of pain. Not a scream, not a cry. Just a groan, the kind of sound someone makes when they are trying very hard not to make any sound at all. Ran toward it. She found him near the edge of the collapse. He was on his knees, his body bent forward. A massive slab of the ceiling had fallen across his left arm, pinning it to the ground. The weight was enormous. She could not even imagine how heavy it was. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was what the slab had done to his arm. From the elbow down there was nothing left that looked like an arm. The bone was crushed. The flesh was torn. Blood pooled on the ground, spreading slowly outward. Had seen wounds before. She had seen soldiers die, but this was different. This was her sergeant. She said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. He looked up at her. His face was pale, covered in sweat. Pain was written in every line of his expression, but his eyes were clear. "Tourniquet," he said. "Upper arm, do it now." Did not hesitate. She pulled the medical band from her kit and wrapped it around his arm above the elbow. She pulled it tight as she could. The blood flow slowed. Appeared beside them, her face full of horror. As an empath, she could feel pain as if it were her own. It hit her like a wave, so strong that she almost collapsed. "How are you conscious?" she whispered. "How are you even alive?" Did not answer her. He was looking at his arm, at the slab that pinned it. He was thinking. "We cannot lift this," said, understanding where his mind was going. "It is too heavy. Even the cannot lift this." "I know. We could wait, call for help. The other group can dig through from the other side." "How long would that take?" Was silent. They both knew the answer. Hours, maybe more. And they did not have hours. The Queen knew they were here. More drones would come. If they stayed in this junction, they would die. Looked at his arm again. Then he looked at his knife. "No," said. "There has to be another way." "There is no other way." His voice was calm, too calm. "The arm is already gone, look at it. Even if we got it free, no medic could save it. It is dead." Made a small sound of distress. She was shaking her head, her large eyes full of tears. "You cannot. The pain alone would kill you. Your body would go into shock." "Maybe." "Not maybe, certainly. I can feel what you are feeling right now. It is already at the limit of what any creature can survive. If you do this, your heart will stop." Met her eyes. For a moment something passed between them. Not anger, not defiance, just acceptance. "Then I will have to keep it beating myself," he said. He drew his knife. Arrived just in time to see what was happening. The commander stopped dead, his mouth falling open. "Sergeant, you cannot be serious." "Hold the light steady," said Tu. "I need to see what I am cutting." She did not argue. She did not cry. She pulled out her tactical light and held it exactly where he needed it. Placed the blade against his arm just below the tourniquet. The knife was sharp. It would cut through flesh easily. The bone would be harder. He would need to find the joint, separate it there. He took one breath, then another. "Sergeant," tried again. "Please, there must be." Started cutting. The turned away. These were creatures born for war. They had seen death in 1,000 forms. They had torn enemies apart with their bare hands, but they could not watch this. Something about it was too terrible, too raw. They stood frozen. Their species valued logic and reason above all things. They could not understand what they were seeing. It did not fit into any category they knew. Self-harm was madness. Survival was logic, but this was both at the same time. Only stayed exactly where she was. The light in her hand did not shake. Her eyes did not look away. She watched her sergeant cut through his own flesh, and she did not flinch. Because she knew him. She knew that looking away would be an insult. She knew that he needed her to be strong, so she was strong. That was what soldiers did for each other. Worked the knife with terrible focus. The blade was sharp, and it sliced through muscle and tissue with awful ease. Blood ran down his arm, around his fingers, dripping to the ground. He could feel everything. Every cut, every tear, every fiber of his body screaming at him to stop. He did not stop. Collapsed. The empathic feedback was too much. She fell to her knees, clutching her head, making sounds that were not words. Two tried to help her, but she pushed them away. She could not escape the pain. It was inside her head, burning like fire. "The bone," said through clenched teeth. "I need to find the joint." His voice was steady. How was his voice steady? He was cutting off his own arm, and his voice was steady. "Move the light slightly. 2 centimeters to the left. I can see the separation." "Good." The knife found the joint between the bones. Pushed, twisted, felt the awful grinding sensation as the blade worked through cartilage. A sound escaped his lips. Not a scream. Something smaller, something he could not control. A grunt of pure animal suffering. Found himself praying. He did not know to what or to whom. They did not have gods. But in this moment, watching this human do the impossible, he felt the need to ask something greater than himself for help. Please, he thought, please let him survive. 3 minutes passed. They felt like hours. And then it was done. Pulled back and his arm stayed behind. Just like that. One moment he was attached to it, the next moment he was not. He stared at the space where his hand used to be. Blood oozed from the stump despite the tourniquet. He was shaking. His whole body was shaking, tremors running through him like electricity. His face was the color of old paper. His eyes were glassy and distant. Moved immediately. She pulled out a medical sealant from her kit and sprayed it over the wound. It was designed for battlefield injuries, not amputations, but it was better than nothing. The bleeding slowed. Shaking continued. "Sergeant," she said, "talk to me. I am still here. Your heart, still beating, told you I would keep it going." Was getting back to her feet. She was crying, tears streaming down her blue face. She had felt everything, every cut, every moment of agony. She had lived through it with him. "How?" she asked. "How did you do that?" Took a breath, then another. Color was slowly returning to his face, not much but some. "Humans, evolved on a death world," he said. His words were slow, careful. "Everything wanted to kill us. Animals, weather, disease, each other. We learned to survive. We learned that pain is just information. It tells you something is wrong, but it does not have to stop you." He looked at his remaining hand. It was covered in blood, his own blood. "Fear is the same. Anger is the same. They are just signals. On Earth, the creatures that let those signals control them, they died. The ones that kept going, they lived. We are the children of the ones who kept going." Found his voice, but the pain must have been unbearable, impossible. "Yes." "Then how did you bear it?" Looked at him. For a moment, something almost like humor crossed his face. "I did not bear it, I just did not let it stop me. There is a difference." He tried to stand. His legs wobbled. Caught him before he could fall, her arm going around his waist to support him. "You need to rest," she said. "You have lost too much blood." "No time." Pulled away from her, steadying himself through pure will. "The Queen knows we are here. More drones are coming. If we stay here, everyone dies." "You can barely stand." "I can stand enough." He bent down and picked up his pistol with his right hand, checked the magazine, still 7 rounds. "I can still shoot. I can still walk. The mission is not complete." The warriors were watching him now. One of them, the largest, stepped forward. His name was, and he had killed more enemies than he could count. He had never respected a Nam before. They were all too soft, too weak, too fragile. But this human was different. "I will carry him," said, his voice deep and rough. "If he falls, I will carry him to the Queen's chamber myself." Shook his head. "I do not need to be carried." "I did not ask what you need. I told you what I will do." 4 arms crossed over his chest. "You have earned that much, human. You have earned more than that." Looked at his reduced squad. They had lost soldiers in the collapse. They were tired, wounded, shaken. But when he looked at the human sergeant, standing there with 1 arm and more determination than the rest of them combined, he felt something strange in his chest. "Hope. Form up," he ordered. "We move to the Queen's chamber, stay together, protect each other." The squad began to move. Walked beside, ready to catch him if he fell. But he did not fall. Step by step, he kept going forward, leaving a trail of blood behind him. They walked toward the heart of the hive. The Queen's chamber was like nothing they had ever seen. It was vast, stretching up into darkness so high that the ceiling was invisible. The walls pulsed with veins of green light, thick as tree trunks, all flowing toward the center of the room. The floor was soft and wet, covered in some kind of organic membrane that moved beneath their feet. And at the center of it all, the Queen waited. She was enormous, a mountain of flesh and chitin, bigger than a building. Her body was covered in armored plates that gleamed like black metal. Dozens of limbs extended from her torso, some ending in claws, others in strange sensory organs. Her head was a nightmare of teeth and eyes, all of them focused on the entrance where the squad had appeared. Around her stood the elite guards. These were not drones. These were something else entirely. They were twice the size of normal, with armor so thick that plasma fire might not even scratch it. There were 20 of them, standing in a perfect circle around their queen. His heart sank. They were too few, too wounded. The collapse had taken half their number. The soldiers who remained were exhausted and injured. And was still standing, but barely. He leaned against the wall of the entrance, his face gray, his breathing shallow. Blood still seeped from the stump of his arm despite the sealant. He should have been unconscious. He should have been dead. But he was still there, still holding his pistol, still watching the Queen with those calm, steady eyes. "We cannot win this fight," said quietly. "We should retreat, regroup with the others, find another way." "There is no other way." His voice was weak but clear. "The hive knows we are here now. If we retreat, they will hunt us through the tunnels. We will die tired instead of fighting." "Then what do you suggest?" Was quiet for a moment. He looked at the Queen, at the elite guards, at the distances and angles of the chamber. He was thinking, planning. Even now, even with his life draining away, his mind was still working. "A distraction," he said finally. "The guards are protecting her. They will not leave her side unless something draws them away, something they see as a bigger threat than losing their position." Understood immediately. "No. You have done enough, more than enough. Let someone else do this." "Who? They are strong, but they are not fast enough. They are precise, but they do not know how to fight without formation. It has to be me." "You have 1 arm and barely any blood left in your body. You will die." Looked at her. For the first time since the collapse, something like warmth entered his eyes. "Maybe, but you will not. You are the best shot in this squad. When I pull the guards away, you run for the Queen. 1 shot. Behind the head where the nerve cluster is. That is the only way to kill her fast." "I know where to shoot." "Then you know what you have to do." Was silent. Her jaw was tight, her hands clenched into fists. She wanted to argue, she wanted to find another way. But she knew her sergeant, she knew he was right. "Make it count," she said finally. Smiled, just a small smile, tired and painful. "I always do." He turned to the warriors. "When I move, you move." Hit the guards from the side while they are focused on me. Keep them busy. Keep them away from. Nodded, all four of his arms gripping weapons. We will paint the walls with their blood. Good, pushed himself off the wall, steadying himself for what was coming. Keep your back, suppressing fire on anything that tries to flank us. Do not let the Queen reach. Gave the order. His soldiers moved into position, their rifles ready. For a moment, everything was still. The Queen watched them from across the chamber, her many eyes gleaming with alien intelligence. She knew they were coming. She was waiting to see what they would do. Took a breath. Then he ran. He did not run toward safety. He did not run toward cover. He ran straight at the elite guards, screaming something in Korean, his pistol firing as fast as he could pull the trigger. The guards reacted exactly as he knew they would. This small, wounded creature was charging at them. It was insane. It was suicide. They had to kill it. They had to tear it apart. 8 of them broke formation and rushed toward him. Moved. She was smaller than the aliens around her, faster, harder to see. She slipped through the chaos like a shadow, her eyes fixed on the Queen. The great creature was turning, sensing danger, her many limbs beginning to move. Disappeared under a wave of elite guards. His pistol went empty. He threw it at the nearest guard's face and pulled his knife again. 1 arm against 20 limbs. He did not care. He kept fighting. They hit the guards from the side, roaring with battle fury. Bodies crashed together. Blood sprayed. They opened fire, their shots precise and deadly, dropping guards that tried to intercept. Reached the Queen. She raised her rifle, found her target, the nerve cluster just behind the skull where the armor was thinnest. 1 shot. The Queen's head exploded. The effect was immediate. Every in the chamber stopped moving at once, their connection to the hive mind severed. The elite guards stumbled, confused, lost. The fell on them with terrible joy, finishing what had started. Turned and ran back toward the entrance. She found on his back, covered in wounds, surrounded by dead guards. His knife was still in his hand, buried in the throat of the last creature that had tried to kill him. Sergeant, she dropped to her knees beside him. His eyes opened. They were dim, fatting, but still there. Did you get her? Yes, she is dead. The Queen is dead. A smile crossed his face, weak, bloody, but real. Good, mission complete. Tell, not bad for something fragile. He passed out. 3 months later, Sergeant Park stood on a stage in the Coalition capital, receiving the Star of Valor. His left arm was gone, replaced by a silver prosthetic that gleamed under the ceremony lights. Stood beside him, her own medal shining on her chest. In the audience, watched with. Around them, hundreds of aliens whispered about the footage that had leaked. The footage of a human cutting off his own arm. The footage of that same human charging an army of elite guards with nothing but a knife. They call their planet a death world, murmured. Now I understand why. Nodded slowly. It is not that they do not feel pain or fear. I felt everything he felt, the agony, the terror. It was more than any of us could bear. Then how do they do what they do? Looked at the humans on the stage, at standing tall despite everything he had lost, at who had walked through hell beside him without hesitation. They feel all of it, she said quietly. Every moment, every pain, every fear. They simply refuse to let it stop them. Was silent for a long time. He said finally, perhaps the name is wrong. Perhaps we should call them something else. What? He watched shake hands with the coalition leaders, watched smile at the crowd, watched 2 fragile humans stand at the center of a galaxy that had underestimated them. Survivors, he said, we should call them survivors.